Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name is 𝙎𝙁𝙄𝙇. Today we are talking about cutting and shaping light. We're going to use a variety of different tools and have a variety of different effects. And we're going to also look at what lights are easy to cut and shape and what lights are more challenging or more involved to cut and shape. So why cut and shape light? Well, it's mainly to keep the light where you want it and not get spill where you don't want it. The main reason to do this is to separate your subject, me, from the background. As you can tell, like this shot is not as powerful as this shot because by flagging out the background, I get that really nice sense of separation and the viewer's eye comes straight to me. How are we doing this? Well, I have a large flag. This one's called, affectionately known as a meat axe. It's a 4x1 black diffusion, negative fill if you like. This one's actually a floppy, which we'll get into later. But what's happening is the light is hitting me, but then the floppy is blocking the light from hitting the background. This is easy to do the more off axis and the smaller the light is that you're shaping. If the light is directly above camera or on camera, there's no way to block the light from the background without blocking the light from me. Because we have a light that's maybe 30 degrees off camera and 30 degrees above camera, I'm able to slide this floppy in so that it's blocking the background but not blocking me. Another easier way to flag the background with a Fresnel light like this is just use the barn doors that come with almost every Fresnel. So if we move in the barn door on the light itself, you can see that it starts blocking the background before it starts blocking me. If we do it even further, you'll see that it starts to creep across my shoulder, and then eventually my face. You could always use both barn doors to create a noir style sort of effect. So here, the bundle's moved almost all the way in and you're getting a very narrow band. It's not as narrow as if you had two flags here blocking the light, and that would give a much harder shadow. The closer the flag is to the subject, the harder the cut is going to be, which sometimes is good and sometimes is bad. The famous opening sequence of Skyfall where James Bond's silhouette walks down a corridor and then comes into this sort of light. Deakins used a flag from a light further away, but the flag itself was probably 4 foot from the actor. So it isn't a hard edge, it's a much more soft and natural edge. But flagging hard lights is relatively easy and you have a lot of control. But very rarely do you use hard lights on set because they create those competing shadows on the face, and it's much more popular to use soft, beautiful, wide or large sources. So we're going to take a look at, when we use those, the challenges in shaping and flagging them. Here we have a much larger light. This one is the Intellitek LC120. It is a kind of Kino 4x4 form factor, so it's 3 feet by 1 feet. And as you can see, once I move my cutter in again, it does something, but not nearly as much as it did with a small light because it's only blocking part of a much larger light source. To get a good shape on this light, to flag it off the background, it becomes more involved. So to get this larger light off the background, what I've done is move my meat axe, my cutter, to above my head and bring in a second flag. This one is a 2x4 next to me. So essentially between these two flags and my body, I'm essentially sealing the light off the background. So if we zoom out, you can see how this is blocking the light coming above my head and this is blocking the light from beside me, and I'm blocking the light that's coming right at me from hitting the background. This is a really easy way to achieve the ratio you want, and by that I mean the ratio between your subject and the background behind them, so that you get that contrast, you get isolation. So here we have another scenario where I'm next to an open window, and there's a huge contrast ratio between this side of my face and this side of my face that we want to make a little bit more palatable to the eye, a little bit more cinematic. First thing we're going to do is put up a diffusion fabric. This one is a silent quarter grid over the window to make the window more diffuse and the sunlight coming in a little bit more full. So now we've knocked down a lot of the light. So we're going to increase our exposure by going down from 6.3 to say f4 to bring up the level. The next thing we're going to do is bring in this piece of reflector board to fill in this side of my face. We actually have it on a stand already. I'm able just to rotate it to then give myself some fill. So this is a good start, but now we've got almost too much. It's a little bit too diffuse. We've lost the harshness. But we're now needing a little bit more contrast. Next step is going to bring in a bottomer. So I've got my flag again. I'm going to put it at the bottom on the floor so that it starts to take out a little bit more of the light coming up at me and going to give me a little bit more contrast on the face. We're also going to pull in the curtain a little bit to box that light in further. We're going to come down again on our f-stop from 4 to 2.8. And our last step is going to bring in a topper to actually box that light even further. So by using a reflector on this side, using the diffusion, and then boxing in that diffusion, I have a lot more cinematic look compared to what we started with, which had contrast, but it was just too wild. By using the flags, I'm able to bring in the look that I want, and I even can rotate this very precisely to go from, a 8:1 contrast ratio all the way down to a 2:1. Just gives me a lot of control, allows me to finesse the image, which really is that next level of cinematography where you get what you want, but then you use the time available to you to really refine it and get something that really tells a story or evokes an emotion. That is our look at cutting and shaping light. Leave your questions in the comments, and I will see you next time.